Hello, welcome to another episode, Buckshots with Trevor and Luke. We are here talking Bucks Celtics game one, a game that the Bucks came away winning 101-89. You're going to get our instant reactions. Trevor and I we didn't even really talk during the game, so both we didn't really talk before the show either. So we'll be throwing a lot of stuff at each other. But off the bat, like I said, Bucks 101, Boston 89. Just to run through some stats here. On the Bucks side of the ball, Giannis 24, 13, and 12. Drew Holiday 25, 9, and 5. Bobby Portis 15 and 11 off the bench. Grayson Allen 11 off the bench. On Boston side of the ball, 21 for Jason Tatum. And really, I mean, Trevor, outside of that, not much. Um, I don't even want to say that Jaylen Brown was their second best player because he didn't play well. Maybe throw Al Horford 12 and 10. Um, but I guess before we dive too deep into it, Trevor, just give me your initial thoughts on the game. Were you happy with the outcome? Were you happy to see how the Bucks kind of played down the stretch a little bit there? Just give me a general overview of what you're thinking of watching that game.
I mean, this it's it almost makes you want to cry, right? Because it's
Mhm.
so beautiful to see as a Wisconsin fan. This this was absolutely dumbfounding to me. I knew the Bucks weren't going to quit. I knew they had a good team, but the resilience scene, right? And somebody made the point about Giannis. He's not mean mugging anymore.
Just playing.
He's just in killer mode,
Yeah.
right? And to not only see the defense, you look at Javon Carter plus 25 in 22 minutes, best
Hmm.
plus minus on the team. You look at Giannis, he's not getting it going, and he is distributing and playing the best defense I've ever seen. We talked ad nauseum during the season about will the guys step up. Nobody was huge, but Grayson Allen did his job. Pat Connaughton did his job. All these guys did their job. Holiday stepped up. It just that finals experience last year and that Nets run, that series against the Nets, it looked like it aged these guys about 30 years
Yeah, for
in terms
sure.
of maturity. And so, I'm still not saying the Bucks win this series. I still would lean Boston, but you look at game one, you're going, wow, this is, this is really, I'm lost for words. Nobody expected this kind of performance on the road, especially when they went down 22-14. You see the calls that were made. I thought it would go downhill. Man, they just want to quit, and it's incredible to see.
Yeah. From my point, or I guess from what I've seen, there was two talking points in this game. I think obviously the first one is, I mean, Jason Tatum was cold as ice in the first quarter, first half, and you could see how valuable he is to that team, I guess, because if he's not scoring, I mean, like I said to start the show, who do you want to call who had the second best game for Boston? They need Jason Tatum to score. I don't necessarily know that Jason Tatum is shooting 0 for 5 in the first quarter of every single game this series. But it is, I mean, I talk about this on Lombardi Sweep. I talk about this here. It doesn't matter as long as you win playoff games. You're at the point now where you need to kind of make adjustments on the fly, and you can't sit and prepare for a team for a week, right? And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was Boston tried to play physical early with the Bucks, and I don't know if there's a more physical team in the NBA than the Bucks. I think that goes right into Milwaukee's hands. If on both sides, you're going to get Giannis driving downhill all the time. You're going to get Brooke Lopez beating up people in the paint. I mean, you're going to get Drew Holiday. You're going to get Pat Con. I mean, even Grayson Allen drives from time to time now and just works inside. And then inside the paint, I don't know. I don't know that I've seen a better team defend the hoop the last couple of years than these Bucks have. And I think that obviously, it's nice to have Giannis for that. But Brooke Lopez has been playing well. Even Bobby Portis has been playing well inside lately. So I think, if you can get the series, physical like that, um, I, I I think it'd be very tough for Boston to play physical with Milwaukee.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. I know we talked a little bit about it offline. I talked about it with a lot of people offline. Game one, I told people I'm after game three of the Boston Brooklyn series. I want Boston to sweep Brooklyn.
Yeah,
We've seen it happen to the Bucks. We've seen it happen to all teams everywhere. You get a week off when you're red hot, man. It's tough. It's tough to keep that going. And They started hot, but to your point, Tatum was 0 for 5. And when that physicality drains you as well, when they're facing the defense, miles ahead of Brooklyn, it's hard to get started. And, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but now if you're Boston, if you're looking at this, and if you're a Bucks fan looking at this, Boston needs game two.
Yep.
Because if they don't take game two, all Milwaukee has to do is take one of two games at home and they're up 3-1.
Right.
Certainly, I'm not saying Boston can't come back from that, but man, the Bucks took care of business. Even if they could get blown out by 50 points game two, it doesn't matter. They've done their job.
Right.
And,
They got
that
home court.
swagger that swagger they carry over, that physicality, that we're the fucking champions, you have to go through us mentality, that that's not going away, especially after this game.
Right. And I think, obviously, I hope this is talked about in national media that, Milwaukee is a very tough place to play for opposing teams. I mean, all Wisconsin teams have great fans. Maybe I know both of us are Wisconsin fans for all three professional sports. I don't think there's bias in saying that, though. I mean, these are small markets that what we care about is sports in this state. So the Pfizer's gonna be rocking come game 3 and game 4. But like you said, to get that first game, it gives them home court advantage. I mean, look what they did last year in the playoffs at home. Hardly dropping a game, not that I can remember. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head, but
Atlanta game one, but outside
yeah,
of that, yeah.
yeah. So to get them to get home court advantage is incredible because Boston's always been a tough place to play. The Garden's one of the best venues in sports history, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, I mean it's awesome. It's a great win off the jump for the Bucks. In a series that I don't. It feels. I know the Bucks were favored by 5, but everyone nationally taken Boston in this series. I think that was a statement game for Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to your point too, not only was it, I don't want to say dominant victory, but it was not a nail biter near the end. The
Right.
Bucks shot 35% from three, 41% from the field. Now, Boston shot 33% from the field, but their 3-point shooting 36%. That's about what you're going to get from them.
Hmm.
So the Bucks shooting 3-point was average, from the field was below average. They still won by 12 on the road. So I mean, that's a positive sign, and you got to wonder, momentum wise, with that killer attitude. I mean, shit,
Yeah.
who knows what can happen game two?
Right. They won by 12 on the road, just talking about Boston shooting. Well, Boston made 18 threes. I know they shot 50. They only shot 36%, but they made 18 threes. I wouldn't imagine that many teams in NBA history lose at home when they make 18 threes. Um, I wanted to bring up one point about Boston. Um, they're at least, in the third and fourth quarter, they were doubling Giannis when he got it, on the wing at the 3-point line, which led to so many open shots for the Bucks. It's an interesting strategy that, as a Bucks fan, I hope that continues throughout the series, right? But you have to imagine that there'll be adjustments there. Maybe, game one's always a feel it out kind of game. What are they going to do, and then make your adjustments. I don't necessarily know that the Bucks are going to see as many open looks as they saw tonight. But to see, and I had just tweeted about it before he came on. Grayson Allen's been huge with Chris Middleton down. Pat Connaughton's been huge with Chris Middleton down. Even Javon Carter's been hitting threes here and there. Like, these role players are stepping up, and going back to your point, Trevor, that the Bucks are battle tested. They're coming off a championship. I think that was proved tonight that these role players aren't just average role players. Like, they can play in big games.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about the defensive game plan, it, to me, it spoke a lot. Ime Udoka, I'm not taking anything away from him. He's a fantastic coach.
Hmm.
I think he's really underrated. It spoke a lot to me because anybody who watched that Bulls Bucks series said, well, just guard Giannis, don't double him, you'll be fine. The Boston Celtics and the media and their fans and their players are talking all about their defense, and their defense was good.
Hmm.
But it says a lot to me that they don't feel comfortable with a single guy on Giannis one on one
Right.
at all, ever. And so seeing they can't double him and seeing they don't believe they can even go one on one with him, it's going to be interesting to see what they come out and try to do game two. Because to your point, this is not going to work. If
Right.
they do this for 4 games, as long as the Bucks don't go ice cold, they will sweep Boston. Um, but does going one on one against Giannis work either? I don't know. So it will be really interesting to see what they do game two now that they've felt the Bucks out.
Yeah, and you know what? Probably, you know what feels like a really underrated part about Giannis's game. I guess maybe lately is his passing. I mean, he was putting balls on the money all game. You know, and he does those weird, behind the head as he's falling down, and they always get to their spots. That's something that not a lot of people talk about. And I just wanted to say, shout out to everyone on Boston Twitter right now saying that Giannis has no skill. This is going to sound like a shot at Thanasis, but it's not. I mean, Thanasis is the same size as Giannis, and Giannis is the best player in the league. So, I mean, that just tells you what you need to know about Giannis right there.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm saying this as a Bucks fan, but I think people need to start to give their flowers to Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
What he did overall as a coach was not great, but I think anybody that knows basketball saw all those triple doubles Giannis started putting up in his first year with Jason Kidd when he was playing point guard, and now we're seeing that come to fruition. To your point, KD, he goes 9 for 25, 6 for 11 from the free throw line. They're losing by like 20 to Boston.
Hmm.
Giannis puts up a cool 24 and adds 12 assists, and they win by 12. That is an impact that KD doesn't have. LeBron has been diminished on. After this game, and again, it's only one game, I don't see how Giannis is not the best player in the NBA, to your point, because of that passing that he doesn't seem to get the credit for.
Yep. Yep. And just talking, talking a little bit more about this game. Um, Marcus Smart got hurt 5 times in this game. I was counting. There was it was in the middle of the third quarter. There was 6 straight possessions that all 5 players on the court in Boston complained about a call. Um, and we had talked before the series. I mean, the Bucks are going to have to learn to play with fouls in this series. You're going to get fouls. Al Horford and Marcus Smart are going to flop every single play. We know that. So to see, and that we kind of saw that a little bit today, right? There was some questionable calls. I mean, I'm not pissed about the refs at all in this series because I think they called it evenly both ways. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but the Bucks are going to have to learn to play with fouls in this series. It's going to be a hard fought series. Going back to that physicality aspect, I mean, guys are going to be dinged up at the end of the series, which kind of sucks because Joel Embiid's out. So Miami may have a cakewalk to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on anything? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to your point about free throws, they're bitching about calls. They had one less free throw than the Bucks.
Hmm.
Fouls, they had 4 more. And to your point, like you said earlier, they took 53s. This is the thing that pisses me off, and the Suns do it too. And Monty Williams, for as much as I love him, he pisses me off because he does this too. You can't bitch about a foul disparity when you're shooting 53s a game. If you're a jump shooting team, you're just not going to get fouled as much. That's how the
Right.
game works.
Right.
So you look at Boston, they settled for a lot of jump shots. And you look at the free throw disparity, only one. And the foul disparity was only 4. So, Boston can bitch and bitch and bitch, but you also got to wonder with these refs, they're people too.
Hmm.
Um, they've heard this. Scott Foster does not care if you bitch. I'm not saying the refs are going to take it out on him, but to a certain point, you start pushing and prodding and prodding. These refs know basketball. They will call a ton of makeup calls or a ton of calls against you unfairly with the complaining. We've seen it before, and I'm not saying the refs are going to screw over Boston, but Boston better be pretty careful because they don't have a case, and the refs are well aware, and so is the NBA.
For sure. Here's a question for you that maybe just I guess just to play devil's advocate on this great Bucks win. I know you love playing devil's advocate on Lombardi Sweep, but is Giannis shooting 9 of 25? Is that concerning at all?
It is a little bit. Um, you know, it, it's so tough. I think it's a little concerning. I think I look at the whole body of work and I say it's great. I don't think anybody would disagree.
Right.
Um, I think as long as he's putting together a game where he can dish out 7 to 8 plus assists, get double digit boards, get a couple blocks, steals, be good on defense. I think that's okay because of the way the series will go. It'll be a hard fought defensive series. I don't
Yep.
think anybody's arguing that. So I think when you take the series into account, as long as he doesn't have crazy turnovers, which I mean, he had 5 tonight, as long as he doesn't have crazy turnovers and he gets other involved, I'm not too worried. Once he starts shooting that and he's turning it over more and he's not finding open teammates, then I think that's where it really becomes a problem.
And of course, shooting is going to go down in the playoffs just because of higher intensity, more, better defense, whatever you want to say. Um, and I know, Trevor, you said this when we opened the show. Buck shot 41% from the field. Boston shot 33% of the field from the field. It's likely that both teams shoot better the rest of the series. Um, I think it's also likely that Boston shot 50 threes, the Bucks shot 34 threes. I don't know that they're going to see that many attempts, especially after this game, like we talked about doubling Giannis, and with however I don't know however the Bucks want because obviously that's what kept Boston somewhat in this game was their 3-point shooting. So Budenholzer is gonna have to make an adjustment, and I'm I'm now on the idea that I'm in favor of Budenholzer's adjustments. It only took me 5 years to get there, but whatever he's been doing the last two playoffs has been working, and that's
Yeah,
very nice to see.
yeah, absolutely. And if the Celtics want to shoot 53s a game, they're probably going to win one or two games.
Hmm.
But down 1-0 already, they're going to lose a series if that is their game plan. I think
Yep.
it's going to change, but you know, I'm still a little pessimistic as a Bucks fan because I'm a Bucks fan and because Middleton is out. But Boston's going to have their hands full game two. I think they probably win that game either way, but they need to find a sustainable game plan because what they've been working on for a week clearly is not working.
Yep.
And they need to pick something else. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how it starts because the Bucks got punched in the mouth and they didn't go away. If the Celtics get punched in the mouth game two at home, they're not going to quit, but I don't know if they can lead the turnaround with 53s with the way they play, the same way the Bucks did. So it'll be
Yep.
interesting.
Yep. Totally fair. And then I guess moving forward, Trevor, there's probably going to be what, two games before our next show, two maybe three, however they want to do the scheduling. But what are the keys to how do the Bucks go up 3-0?
I think game two is a big game. I think you just got to worry all about the defense.
Hmm.
I look at the Boston Celtics squad, they're a deep squad, but I look at their bench, right? Grant Williams at 29 minutes. Solid player. He's not great.
Right.
He looked great against Brooklyn, but he's not great. I look at Derek White, again, solid player. I don't see a way he's ever, great to carry him over the line.
Yeah, he's
Peyton
never gonna be the
Pritchard,
X factor.
yeah, Peyton Pritchard, same way. You look at Grace now, and we know he can do that. We've seen that.
Hmm.
Javon Carter, we know at least defensively he can do that. Pat Connaughton, we've seen him do that. So looking at how the Bucks go up 3-0, I think really just make life hell on the starting five
Hmm.
because as long as you are average, you play that solid defense, as long as everybody's in complete shit, I don't know who on the bench can lead them to a victory. And as crazy as it sounds, Tatum shooting 33% against his defense is not much worse than I would expect every game of
Right.
this series. So I think just keep their starters in check. I don't think the bench can take them to the finish line.
And you took the words right out of my mouth there. Just to add something onto it, I mean that physicality still has to be up the rest of the series. Boston's an odd team. Like Boston's a very good team. Other than Jason Tatum, is there anyone on this team that really scares you that can kind of take over and score 15 points in a 3 minute span or anything like that?
Jalen Brown definitely does, just because I witnessed what he did. I think it was Game 4 against the Bucks a couple
Yeah,
years ago in the first round matchup. That was insane. The clinic
yeah.
him Tatum put on. He scares me, but to your point, I mean, those two guys are probably the only two guys. Then to Marcus Smart, as much as I dislike him as a player, and seeing what he's done as a person, it's tough to see him get injured multiple times too. And he's already banged up, and that shoulder that's probably popped out.
Hmm.
I mean, how is that going to affect him, right? Because now, if he is ineffective, if he is shooting like
Especially his
this, or
right shoulder.
exactly, if he's below average the rest of the season, it's Tatum Brown, who's their third guy, Horford,
I mean,
Williams,
you're going to get 3, 4 threes out of Al Horford a game, but
yeah,
that's about. I mean, and you'll get a couple stops on defense. But Al Horford isn't Atlanta Al Horford anymore.
yeah, and so I think, really, you talk about who's going to beat you, Tatum and Brown, but if Smart is banged up, if Smart is shooting below average because of those injuries the whole series, they don't have a three.
Right.
And although the Bucks also don't have a three, their collaborative rest of the bunch, I would say, is much better than the Celtics for sure. So I
To-
think that's the scary part if I'm Boston.
yep. Totally agree on that. Trevor, I did have one more point to bring up about the Bucks before I'm not anything to do with playoffs, but is there anything else you want to mention about this game, about this series?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the minutes were huge.
Yep.
You know, you look at Tatum 40, Horford 36. He's not young anymore. Williams was in foul trouble, so not very many. Smart 33 while injured. Brown 38. Grant Williams 29. And you look at the Bucks. Giannis had 38, right? But Drew had 36. That's not a crazy amount.
Right.
Bobby and Lopez combined for what, 60? That's not a crazy amount. Wes Matthews 29. So you look at the stars, and for me, the Buck stars played less minutes, and I mean that's going to build on the Celtics. They've been off for a while. Now they're going to go hard minutes right now. That's going to build, and if the Celtics can't find reliable bench players, man, that stamina is just going to get drained real quick in this series.
Yep. Totally agree. I think as a Bucks fan, both of us being Bucks fans, obviously we host a Bucks podcast, but I think Bucks fans are very happy about this win. I think Bucks players are very happy, and I think Bucks coaches are very happy about this win. Um, so I guess if you want to put on something, just for the fact that the Bucks now own home court advantage in this series, which I think a lot of people underestimate in basketball for sure. Um, and I'll throw a shout out to my guy Javon Carter. I'm happy you brought him up a couple times. He's a Bob Huggins guy. You know what you're getting from him. You're getting defense, and and he's not going to turn the ball over, which is absolutely perfect for with George Hill being out right now. So shout out Javon Carter. The other piece of Bucks news that kind of broke was the Lakers are looking at Darvin Ham for a head coach. Um, if, I'm not mad about this. Of course, you want Darvin Ham to be good. It just sucks that the Lakers are asking for him, right?
Yeah, and this isn't me being selfish and wanting to keep him. Obviously, we know he's going to leave. If I'm Darvin Ham, I'm really considering that job.
Yeah,
Uh,
for
like
sure.
like considering not taking it, I should say. He's a great coach, and
Hmm.
we have seen what he has done over the years. He is fantastic. If I'm Darvin Ham, I don't want to go to LA with AD who never plays, question his drive, and LeBron who thinks he's the coach of the team. He deserves an opportunity to show how good of a coach he is, and I don't want to see him go to the Lakers, be the butt of all the jokes, not
Yeah,
be listened to, and get canned because of it, and end up as an assistant coach somewhere. He deserves a job. He deserves a good job. And to be honest, I would decline Minnesota if I, or excuse me, LA if I was him. I'd consider Minnesota. I think he can turn that team around.
I was gonna say Minnesota or maybe even Charlotte.
Hmm.
So yeah, uh, that's all I got. I mean, anything else you want to talk about for Bucks? Anything at all?
Yeah, game two. Let's look at the schedule. Game
Tuesday at
two
6,
is Tuesday at 6.
6 Central.
Yeah, and that'll be a really interesting game. I think the important part is going to be looking at Marcus Smart's status. I think he's going to play no matter what game two,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be interested to see what they list him for, when they list him for it, how they talk about it. They're not going to reveal too much, but I think if they list him, that's a big deal because I think Marcus Smart and the Celtics just want to say, oh, he's just banged up. If they list him, he is very hurt.
Yep. Yeah. Totally agree with that. Um, on that note, I think we're out of here for the day. I'll say, subscribe Flurry Sports on YouTube. Help us keep climbing those subscriber list. Check out Lombardi Sweep. We'll be talking some draft stuff next week. Um, that's, I thought the draft went all right for the Packers.
I really do too. Zach, don't listen to this podcast.
You know, I
He's not
mean,
gonna like it. I
I
thought
don't
he
hate it.
salvaged the hell out of it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. On that note, have a good rest of your weekend. To everybody watching, Trevor, have a good rest of your weekend, and
You as
get ready
well.
for the Bucks game on Tuesday.
Have a good one.